their view over the next 6 weeks or so. And these sessions are going to be available for the people who have registered and who are on the call. They should be able to see it. And also, when we go from 1 week to other week, we are going to summarize that what we discussed on the last week. And if we miss something, we will add on those ones as well. Okay. So that's what we are going to do. And I will point out that all the discussions will be, if you go kind of like, that what framework we are going to focus on, it is going to be focused on NIST 2.0, even though it has not been published and all that. But finally published and all that, but it's like, it's going to be, it's a pretty good guidelines in there. So you want to put that, and then definitely you have a MITRE kind of attack framework from the detection point of view. So we'll discuss a lot about that. But at the end, you have to have some guiding principle. If you don't have some guiding principle where you are ending, you may not kind of like end in something which you can quantify that how we stand on certain kind of criteria. Okay. With that said, what we are going to do is we are going to cover certain topics, and we might show you some kind of like a real demo as well. But whole reason for the demo is not to sell you a product, because you have to first understand what does it mean. So it's like a way of showing you how this thing can be done. Okay. Because the problem is, in the industry, there is a lot of companies come in and they will give you a small feature, silos, and they proudly talk about a huge case and all that. And huge case is something, is very, sounds very nice. It is important, but the huge case is always something which might be holding you. Always have to look into, is it holding you kind of like back from what really you want to cover? Because you don't want to say that, oh, I just kind of like covered this huge case, and what about the rest of the things in there? Because cybersecurity have to be looked into from the holistic point of view. So that's something we are going to be showing you, that what you have to look into. Okay, with that, what we are going to cover, some of the questions we have put it out there, that the cybersecurity, is it just the financially motivated or state-sponsored threat actors are what you have to care about? Those are your competitor itself are trying to kind of like, get some of those intelligence out of your organization. That can be intellectual property, it can be your trade secret, it can be your go-to market. Many things can be out there, and they might kind of like try to get it. You might have some insiders who are not very happy, and they are trying to just kind of like put your organization into uh, like the brand reputations at the risk. Okay. Humans make the mistakes, we make mistakes, and that can be part of your cybersecurity challenge as well. Because if somebody accidentally leaves something open or leave the default password, what it came out, does not have multi-factor authentications like enabled, or many other things out there, and it can happen. It's like, this is something you can put all the people, process, and like all the control in the place, but there is a chance of those mistakes happening. Okay. So that is something you always have to look into. Many applications and services are used by organizations, but they do not get officially tracked. And what does it mean is, the people who are supposed to be monitoring, they are not aware of these applications and services are being used by different part of the organization. And this is a very common occurrence into any organization which has like more than few hundred people. This happens all the time. And even in the small organization, to be flexible and nimble, they also allow kind of people to go ahead and use the applications to get their work done and all that. So that too also creates significant amount of the cybersecurity challenge. And that always have to be looked into. That you have a visibility to know, even if you are not aware, anybody is doing something, are you able to figure it out that, hey, this thing has come into my environment, and whether it is like a proper application behaving properly, or it is doing all the credential dump and taking credential to somewhere else, That's also you have to be always very careful about. And one of the other biggest challenge in the cybersecurity is the amount of data being created every day. Is if you look into compared to last year and this year, every year you almost double, or sometimes some organizations are doubling and tripling the data being generated each year after year. So if you have a too much of a data, you always have to see that, does I have a capability to analyze the data and know what is going on in there? If you have too much data and you don't have enough of the tool and people and process in place to handle that, you are going to be putting yourself at the cybersecurity risk and challenges. Another biggest thing which has happened over the COVID in the last 3+ years, 4 years now, is like workforce. Workforce, previously you can say that, hey, you had a kind of at least a perimeter to some extent. Now that perimeter does not exist anywhere. People are working remotely, people are like mobile workforce, and and they are kind of able to do their work and all that. So you have to have a capability to make sure, if you are not able to monitor them properly, any devices which is kind of accessing your application services, whether it's a SaaS or cloud or on-prem, if you're not able to keep a kind of a view of what is going on, it is going to be a big challenge in there. And other thing is also, you have like so many SaaS applications that's a reality, and you cannot change that, because SaaS application is the way the world is moving around. So that way you do not have to kind of host those applications and run it yourself. Somebody else is doing that work for you, from the application hosting and running and all that. But at the same time, you have to have a capability to know who is accessing your applications, what they are doing, does they belong there, when they are accessing, where they are coming from. All of those questions, if you are not able to answer, then definitely you have a lot of blind spot from the cybersecurity point of view. And other big thing is a third party, because you always, in today's world, we always work with the many third parties, organizations. And most of the organization, they always have interaction with the third party. So if you are working with them, are you able to monitor what is being accessed by them when they are accessing? Is that is being kind of like what they need, that's what they are accessing, or they have a kind of a capability to go around where they don't belong? And it's not about that your third party not trusting, but if what happened, if third party is getting compromised, are you at a serious risk? And you always have to ask those questions. And one of the biggest thing is visibility and the common context. If you do not have like a visibility, and you are not able to put into things into the common context, if you are tracking a user on its own, then you are tracking applications on its own, Then you are looking into the your network and a separate kind of a context and all that. That is going to be a big challenge. You will have a breachage and you will not be able to even figure it out. It will take long period of time to kind of go into it. And sometimes even if you get security, like forensic analysis companies, you can pay millions of dollars and they will be throwing the darts on the board that, okay, let's try this, let's try that, let's try that. And you may never get the answer what has exactly happened, how the people get. It will be all theory. So you always have to make sure you have a complete visibility of your organization and able to put it all together into a common context. What network is saying, what your endpoint is saying, what are your applications, services, processes, everything has to be come into the common context. Without a common context, you are going to be just guess. It will be a guess game. And guess game is not what is going to help you when you are fighting against a threat actor who is like really smart, automating the tool. Those actors will always win. So you have to kind of always ask about common context with complete visibility of your organization. And one of the things is also is like situational awareness, because you also want to, you don't have infinite number of like peoples and money and resources to just keep on watching everything, because sometimes in your organization billions of data points are being generated each and every day. We have some customers who generates millions of event per second. And think about that. If you have that organization over a day, how many billions of events they have to look into and extract the IOCs, and then go into is like, okay, what really I have to look into and what is something let the machine track. So it has to be one thing, as so you will hear a lot about, it's like AI and machine learning and all that. One thing I want to make sure, when you are hearing about regenerative AI, the LLM models, those are something not kind of like, you can go and say, oh, now I will just go in and solve the cybersecurity. They can assist you into looking into the text and putting into the some context in there, but you have to bound the parameters, because if you do not have in knowledge of the domain, those tool trying to use those tool and be successful is going to be sitting on your own foot itself. So you just have to be always aware of that. But the context and situational awareness is a something, if you are not able to put it together by using your kind of whatever the solution you are using, and your kind of like a uh, uh, AI, which is domain specific AI, not your AI, which is coming from LLM AI, is nothing to do with the domain specifics in there, because that is just something you have to understand in your domain, what works, how, what is my network, what is my application services and all that in there, and those has to be put together. That AI LLM can just learn from your own data in there, and sometime it will give you that, hey, this is what I think, but that can be totally wrong as well. So you have to understand that you have to constrain that. Without constraint, you are not going to be successful. Okay. With that, so this is what in the nutshell, we will be covering these things over the next 6 sessions or so. And once again, there will be a lot of questions which will come from your side. And there are people can also ask the question into the question channels. And we will be trying to answer those as much as possible. And if we are not able to answer something, we will also say that, hey, we may have to come back with the answer, or sometimes there may not be a easy answer for those. So we will say that as well. Okay. With that, definitely I'll skip all these things in there. So at the bigger picture, one thing I want to make sure that if you work in the cybersecurity, there will be hundreds and hundreds of kind of like, those huge cases, and there are multiple hundred tools are out there, which are like many organization comes in and they try to sell you and all that in there. One thing I do want to share, if you look into that, the bigger picture, anybody who's kind of in the industry, and see, as you learn more, you come to realize that, hey, you know what? At the end, what you really are dealing with, there are only two main domains are there. One domain is basically your cyber hygienes. Those are the tools which works on rules, signatures, and policies. And those tools can be like, you might have your gateways, which is like your firewall, your proxies, your web gateway, email gateway, your identity management system. You have MFA on top of that, there. You might have it's like a single login kind of a systems and all that. And those tools are always told, this is the rule, these are the policies. And then you might have certain set of the signature. These are the things you look. When they matches it as per those, either you allow or deny it. That's what it is. And those tools play a very significant role into whether you are on-prem, you are in the cloud or SaaS, no matter where you are. Those tools have a role, significant role they play to make sure if you have a house, you got your windows, you got your door, you got your chimneys, you got like whatever openings you have it in there, you have those ones like being watched. You have a door, you have a key, you have a lock, and it has to kind of like, until unless you match certain things in there, you cannot open it. So any organization cybersecurity, first thing, if you are an organization, you are just building, let's say you are a kind of organization, you are just getting launched. What do you want to have for this basic hygiene point of view? Is you have to have those things into the place. Because if you have those things in a place in there, at least you have started with the basic foundation. Okay. Then you also have to assume those things are always going to be breach as well. Okay. There is a good chance they will be breach. So you cannot go and say, oh, I put the hygiene in the place and then now I'm pretty much secure and nothing can happen for me. Okay. So that assumption should be put out there that that is not true. Things will get through it because certain things may be new. You do not have a rules, policy, or signature, so they will get through. Certain breaches may happen. The tool itself might have vulnerabilities out there. Somebody may come in and dump those credentials in there. And with that credential dump, now they have got your credentials. Now they will be able to use it. Now you have a SaaS application where they were using those identity with even multi-factor authentication. Now, sometimes there is a chance that it has not been secure enough. Somebody can steal your session, and with your session, they can go and create another account and they are able to live in your environment. And that happens a lot in the SaaS. When you have a SaaS application, those things are happening. So you will hear that, oh, my Microsoft Office 365 got compromised, or my Azure credential is compromised for my Azure infrastructure as a service, or you have like, let's say, AWS or anything like that. So those compromises do happen, and they happen in quite frequently there as well, because those attackers are also looking into that, hey, how I can get into the environment, even you have the hygiene in the place. Okay. So hygiene, once again, that does not mean you should not have a hygiene. Hygiene is the basic hygiene is always, any organization should start with the hygiene. Okay. Now, somebody will come in and say, hey, what Seceon has to offer in the hygiene? Seceon has not too much things to offer in the hygiene side. We do not provide a firewall. We are not your email gateway. We are not your web gateway. We are not your identity management or single sign-on or anything like that. We enable those into our tools. If you have MFA and all that, some of those things will do. We integrate with those things, okay? We are, only thing is what Seceon has to offer is now you have this EPP and EDR, and we call it XDR PMAX. That capability is there to monitor your endpoint. So when the endpoints becomes an integral part of organization, and every organization, people went remote and they are 24/7, they can be active in the environment, even if they are traveling or whatever, it becomes really critical to monitor those endpoints wherever they are coming from. So that is something we have added capability over here. But beyond that, none of these things Seceon offers. But what Seceon will do is it creates your cybersecurity mess, because these products are part of, is integral and very important part of your cybersecurity solution. So hygiene play a critical role in cybersecurity. Plus, on top of that, they have to be fully integrated with anything you are doing to monitor your environment, detect the threat, stop the threat. Stopping is not only just like, hey, I'm doing mitigation inside, but how I'm making these ones better each and every day. That is a critical part. So you will hear all this SOAR and auto remediations and all those things in there. That is just something you have to have. So now, beyond the hygiene, what comes into the second part? So if you look into the NIST, this is really critical. NIST, if you look into, they come out with a multiple kind of like, they have 171, you have a 53, and there is many others ones, they have sections in there. And if you watch carefully, if you study them for the last 10 plus years or so, they the they have done a phenomenal job. But the biggest problem they have it because they do not make a tool, they do not implement it. So what they do is they leave those into different sections out there, or different controls out there, that, hey, you have 171, you have a 53, you have 101, you have this and that. At the end, what end up happening is it is left up to the organization what to do with it. So even though they have done phenomenal job into defining the things, and I'll tell you, when we were starting the Seceon, one of the things we looked into is like, you know what? Theoretically, they have always talked all these things into different sections. But practical point of view, how somebody is putting the organization, and that kind of like, if you look into the practically, the NIST approach of the past is what was giving the all these feature related industries or companies to come out and give you a feature A, feature B, feature C. So you got these product which are coming with just the features. How you work together, how you make them work together was always left to the humans. How humans are going to be looking into, if they saw that, hey, there is some intrusions is happening on a particular device, then they were told, okay, there is an intrusion detection has happened over there. Now you go into look into like this particular data set, what is network is telling, what is application is telling, where they came from. So go and look into the firewall or like whatever the entry points was. So if you look into effectively, a human was left to do those work in there. Our team of the cybersecurity was left to do the work over there. Okay. Now, so that's where the second domain comes in. So second domain, you can think about this hygiene domain, and then there is a monitoring detections, your stopping of the threats and breaches into early steps and stages. And then making your cybersecurity posture. How you make a posture better? You have to go in and in your hygiene systems, as well as your monitoring system, now have that capability to detect those threats, even they when they are kind of like, trying to get into early stages and kind of like stop them at the gate itself. Or if they got in, you want to catch those into early stages as possible, as early as possible. Just compromising any compromised credential. If you just have a compromised credential in there, that should not mean that using that credential, now people can come in your organization, they got in. Let's say even if you have multi-factor authentications and all that, they stole a session. Or even if you didn't have a multi-factor, they got in your organization, they should not be able to now go in and establish their footing, collect the data, do lateral movement, find out where you have a data, collect the data, exfiltrate the data and all that. Because if they are able to do all these things and take this out, whatever the detection tool you have in there, that tool is not working. Once again, I want to repeat it. Even with a compromised credential, if somebody got in your environment and then they are able to go in and create a footing, do a lateral movement, collect the information, get those data out, and then trying to send you a message and all that, are trying to do the rapid kind of like encryption to say that we have a successful ransomware attack and all that. And if you are not able to detect it, or detect it when the rapid file encryptions are happening, those are a big failure. Your tools are not working. And you should always question. If you get to the point where encryption are starting and your solution you have that is saying that you have a ransomware attack, you have to question that why I did not know about it when the footing was made in my organization, when they were discovering the asset, when they were exfiltrating the asset. Why I did not know, why I came to know only when the encryptions are going to start and you are telling that, oh, I'm stopping the encryption. The damage is already done. So you have to always question that, hey, what is happening with some of the tool? I will kind of like share with you in the industry, some of the tools are being created. They will just put certain files into your devices, endpoints. And when those file extensions are changing, they'll say you got a ransomware attack. Do you really want that tool to tell you ransomware attack? You are going to know in few minutes anyway, because that is being done only when all the success has already happened. That is being done to send you a message to come and negotiate with me. You will still have to negotiate with them to give them a money and all that. Do you want to be in that situation? You do not. So you always have to question if you got to that point and then you are getting a notifications that, hey, we have stopped your encryption because you have a ransomware attack. That is not an effective solution. So you have to kind of like always question that. Now, as we had in the previous slide, we talked about that organization exists into all these things we are saying, whether you are in the, you have a cloud accesses, most of the organization, at least now SaaS are very common. So you might have your Office 365 or Google Workspace. You might have certain workload which are being used into these cloud as a infrastructure as a service, or this can be your own cloud. You can have your own private cloud as well, where you are hosting certain applications. So cloud is uh, becoming pretty much is like, whether you know it or not, one of these infrastructure, PaaS or SaaS, mostly SaaS and infrastructure, is being used by most of the organizations out there. 70 to 90% of the organizations are definitely have one of these services. On-prem, definitely bigger organizations have these ones. The smaller organizations may not have a big on-prem presence uh, right now, and in the future they may not have it, because these might be like moving into the one of the cloud as well in there. So if they can find a very effective way of doing in the cloud, they will do it. And some, depending on the sector you are coming from, some critical infrastructure sector and all that, they still might have to have some infrastructures, their data center hosting and so on and so forth. Definitely, we talked about the partner access in there. So you might have a partners who are accessing your services. You might have your customers accessing your services, whether they are hosted over here in your data center or they are being accessed into the cloud. Okay. And also you have to monitor that some of these partners or customers, there are certain expectations you have, what they can do, what they cannot do. And nobody should be able to come from there and use those interfaces and kind of like services access and start abusing and making your services not available to rest of the customer. So you always have to keep in touch, not only that they are trying to breach it, but sometimes these services you offer to your partner and customer, your competition or some malicious actor might be also try to make sure that you are not able to conduct your services effectively and frustrate your legitimate customer as well. And we see this a lot into, like when you have a offering like airline, you have a ticket booking or you have a ticket booking sites and all that. There are a lot of attacks happening to them on the certain peak hours and all that. So the people get frustrated and they go into some other sites and all that. So that kind of game gets played as well. And it might be not competition doing directly, but indirectly they try to do. So those denial of service attack, you hear quite a bit as well in there. Definitely, we talk about that your remote workforce is always there. You have to make sure you are like not letting them just kind of getting exposed out there. If certain things malicious happens on their like laptop, desktop, and all that, those are being killed before even they kind of like create a footing. And even if they got certain things in there, you want to kind of able to watch their behavior and all that. And then other thing is also is like mobile users as well, whether they are coming from anywhere around the world. You have to have a context and situational awareness, who they are, where they are coming, and all that in there as well. Okay. So these things, you don't have to worry about that it has to be just Seceon is the Seceon product you have to do. You always have to look into that, hey, all these things, are we able to have a complete visibility? Because at the end, what you care about is, you have a comprehensive visibility of everything happening in your environment, whether they were happening inside, whether they are happening into on your perimeter side. All of those things, which is basically on the hygiene side, you are able to pull together into a common context and make a sense of it, that okay, are you have a platform which is making sense, gives you comprehensive visibility of the user, application, services, what they are doing, how much they are being used, when they are being used, from where they are being used. So let's take an example. If Seceon has nothing in Bulgaria, and if peoples are coming from Bulgaria and coming as a Seceon users or Seceon service consumers, does Seceon has to kind of like, deal with that, or they have to kind of like, hey, this is something happening, let's get rid of those in there on the front gate itself, not have them land into your environment, because why you want to do that, unless you are trying to learn about behavior of a particular like set of those motivated attacker as well. And that's something you do not want to do into your real environment. You probably want to create an environment where if you have to monitor as a like a security company, that what kind of the new behaviors are being kind of like exhibited, you can always do that, but not into the real environment. So comprehensive visibility is the key. How you get the comprehensive visibility, that is just something you always then want to kind of just say that, hey, this only one tool gives you. There might be multiple use tools gives you, but visibility with the context is really important, because if you don't have a context, you can have like millions of things and say, okay, I have a visibility into that. What you will do with those millions of things, because you do not have a time, resources, and patience, and to pull it all together. So you have to have a tool which visibility with a sense that, hey, it make a common sense and you are able to make uh, a decision out of that. So comprehensive visibility is a key. You want to proactively detect the threat. As we were discussing, detecting a threat when the encryption starts, that is a useless, because that does not helps you kind of like keep your organization safe. Because by that time you have been already compromised, a lot of bad things has happened to your organization, and you will be blackmailed. You will be negotiating, or you have to do certain things with those threat actors and all that in there. So you don't want to be in that boat in there. So you want to detect those into the early steps and stages. If you cannot do into the when the compromised credential being used, and that user is not kind of getting detected as a suspicious user, if that user had privilege escalations, you want to know about it. If that user is creating a new account and using those new account to do certain things in there, you have to know about it. If that user is doing the activity that it does every day, or it is doing too much of it, you want to know about it. And then sophisticated attacker, one thing I want to make sure, see, Office 365 is very easy to break in, because a lot of those break-in happen. If you guys have those accounts, Microsoft sometimes inform you after multiple days that, oh, you had a potential like a breach of your credential and so on and so forth. The thing is, even when after the breaching, that attacker is sitting into that same on your OneDrive, on your Office 365, and they are trying to watch the behavior. So a lot of time when you get this business email compromises or something like that, they have learned that behavior of your organization and use that kind of intelligence to do certain activity. I'll give you an example. So recently we were talking with a customer, and that customer pointed out that we had a change going on in our pay slip processor, means like what you call is pay the people who do the payment to the employees and all that. So they were changing their, like, payment, like a pay processor and all that in there. And in that case, what happened is, one, they had learned their environment. So this person, the CEO, and then you had employees and then CFO. What ended up happening is there is an email comes out on behalf of employees that, look, my banking details have changed and all that. So in the new kind of like, the payment kind of like processing company, use these banking details going forward. Okay. So think about this. This email is coming out with the context that, hey, we are changing our payroll processor and I want to change my account into the payroll processor. So it goes to, like, leadership team, the person who is supposed to approve, and they say, yeah, we are doing the payroll kind of processor change. This is good, approved. Okay. And it goes that, okay, it is approved. It goes to the CFO, and CFO says, it's interesting. I'm not sure. Then CFO is not suspicious and all that, but not sure. So luckily, CFO has a discussion with this particular employees about something else. And it says that, hey, it's like, are you moving? Because I saw that, you are changing your banking details. I say, what are you talking about? I have nothing to do with, like, I'm not moving anywhere. So I say, no, we got your request. They say, show me. Show the request. And then it says, like, it's not my request. So it looks like it comes with your email header and all. I say, no, it's not me. So these things are not just a theoretical. These things are happening very common now. It's like, that they go in, they sit in there, they are able to kind of learn it, what is happening in your organization, and use those to now derive the context and send out those kind of things out there. So you always kind of have to think about it. It's like, these kind of even behavioral changes and all that in there has to be flat, and you have to detect those. One thing I do want to make sure, look, there's no magic that everything will be able to do without human intelligence. People can come and tell anything you want. You can reduce the noise with the ML and AI, dynamic threat modeling, learning about the environment and all that in there. The humans play a critical role, and they will always play a critical role. You can do certain automations, but beyond that, the intellect, what human brings, no machine will be able to bring. What machine can do, and this is very important that we discuss in the beginning, that machine can take billions of data point in there, and as long as it has been taught how to put those together and make a sense out of it, that can do much more faster than a human can do. But as far as the intellect, what human can bring, the context and situational awareness, you can have a machine learn as much as possible. But at the end, human always will have the surrounding and understanding a lot more than what the machine can do. Machine can keep on learning it, but human is always needed. We cannot go and say complete human will be replaced everywhere. Automation work, human can replace. The routine things, human can be replaced because machine can do it faster and all that, as long as you have a digital telemetry in the proper formatting and all that. Other thing is also proper format, how you have kind of created that data to be put into the context and situational awareness for, like, in that analysis point of view. So there is a lot of those work happen to for the machine to be effective and giving the meaningful information out there. Okay. So we discuss about proactive detection is always key. You want to detect into early stages. Whether credential is compromised or somebody has put a malware in your environment, you should be able to detect the malware. Or even if you have a legitimate application, that application get used into your environment, but all of a sudden that application is like having a significant behavior change. You want to know about why that is happening. Sometimes you say that, okay, this particular application was doing X amount of transaction. All of a sudden I got Y amount, which is like less or more and all that. You want to have that intelligence to, it has to say that, okay, I'm seeing this like unusual things in over here or anomalous behavior. And then human can always add that context that, yeah, this thing was legitimate or it was not legitimate in there as well. One thing you also want to make sure, sometimes there will be discussion that, hey, it's too much noise. Or optimum amount of the intelligence gathering. You always want to make sure I have optimum intelligence in there to make a decision. And some of those decisions might be, yes, this is allowed. This thing has happened in my organization and I know about it. This is something interesting I want to investigate. Get those intelligence. If your platform or solutions are not giving you those intelligence in there, once again, you will get hacked and you will not know about it until unless it's too late in the game. So that's something you want to avoid. So proactive threat detection into early steps and stages. If some credential get compromised and you have a suspicious use of credential, now you are able to look into it. Then let's say you, even if you didn't do something, now that credential is being used to do, like, on the some of the system that credential is sitting, that system is also now doing some sort of the discovery of your asset in the environment, doing a lateral movement. You are collecting those data and now you are able to say, okay, hey, these two story together, I definitely want to take actions on it. Now they started, like, let's say, even if you didn't take action at that point, they started collecting the data for certain places, which you always see that, hey, this does not make sense in there. Now you have a critical alert and say, hey, I want to kind of take actions on this and stop this thing in my environment in there. So it does not happen that your data has been already exfiltrated and then you are able to stop it before that any of those ransomware attack or any other attacks are, because see, it's not only ransomware. If you are a government organization or you are certain other organization, it may be better to not just do a ransomware attack, but it might be better to just sit down, collect the data, keep on taking it out there, take it your trade secret out. And ransomware is only when you really does not kind of care a lot about the data. You care about that, hey, I need a quick payment. Okay. So there are certain cases, it's not only the ransomware, it's just like data leaking and then taking your research and intellectual property. Sometimes you're uh, like leaking your uh, like money. It can be even that one in there as well. So you have to kind of just imagine that there is a many other way people can exploit. Sometimes it might be a government kind of like uh, intelligence are being leaked out there, and it can be a lot of risk to the human life and so on and so forth in there. Okay, so you have to have a proactive detections, and then it is a critical to have automated or playbook based containment elimination. So you should not have that, oh, I detected it. Now I have to go through 20 hoops to give that somebody else to go and apply the policy and all that. You do want to have a capability, whether even if you have a process in a place that somebody has to approve and all that for certain things should be immediately done, so you should not kind of like, need a huge process in there. And those things should be well defined with your organizational like structure and control, that hey, if we see certain things like that, I'll give you an example. If you work into this gaming industry, casino and all that, they have a very well defined protocol. If they see any malicious, like, activity, lateral movement, few things together, they have a policy in place that what they are going to do is they are going to disconnect their gaming machines and their ATM machines or certain things from the network. And that means is the physically walking on the floor and disconnecting the cable. That kind of like procedure they have. And when they have certain that, hey, this is not a risk, they put it back. But there is a process already very well defined that at what time, what actions will be done, and how they can quickly not only kind of disconnect, but also restore it. Everything is in a place in there that has certain certainty, do this, then do this. Okay, so that is very well defined. It's very important for organization to have it, whether you are doing automated or with certain approval, you should always have those things in the place. And then also it comes down to is your compliance does not mean that you got, sometimes, many companies offer, oh, you meet the PCI DSS, you will meet HIPAA compliance, you are able to meet GDPR and this and that. That compliance, if you look into certain sections in there, it should not be once in a year kind of things, or once in a quarter, or once in a month. It has to be continuous compliance, and compliance should come with the driven by a security framework, and the framework should be giving you complete kind of like, control over all your compliance requirement out there. Okay. And you should be able to, once you have all the data, security analytics, your policy management, threat hunting, forensics should be at your fingertip. But once again, these two domains, when you hear about cybersecurity mess are consolidating the cybersecurity tools. All of those things are basically coming into that. If you do not have all of your cybersecurity like domains and tools working together, or if you have not been able to collapse the stack, you have a multiple different products with their own context and situational awareness, you will not be able to get a meaningful value. So you can have a lot of money spent, millions of dollars. You have a lot of people running those tools, but they are sitting into their own kind of like, planet, and not able to pull it all together into the common context. So that's why if you hear these words get coined quite a bit, that, you have to got cybersecurity mess, you have to have cybersecurity tool consolidation. If you don't have it, you will not be able to have effective cybersecurity. So there a lot of talk is happening. Now, the reality I also want to share with you guys, and you always have to kind of ask about this reality. Some companies will come in and say, oh, I do a firewall, I also do this and that and all that in there. And I have a single kind of way of kind of bringing it all together. If you look into, they'll say, oh, I have a cloud security posture monitoring in there. In that posture monitoring, now they went ahead and bought 8 or 10 different companies out there. They are doing small things out there. And how you are making them kind of say that, oh, I got a solution. They have a cosmetic integration across those different tools. When you have a cosmetic integration, once again, you do not have a common context. And if you don't have a common context across all those tools, and you will never be able to bring the data together to bring a common kind of a sense. So one tool is looking into the data in the last 1 hour. Other tool might have a capability to look into the data for last 1 day. Other tool might have a capability to look into the data for last 1 week. When the first tool you ask that, hey, what in this context, what has happened into the last 1 month? It has only data for last 1 hour. How it is going to give you last 1 month? It cannot. So the thing is, a lot of this cosmetic integration, and see, from the customer point of view, you do not have a time to think all this thing about that, hey, how they are missing all these data points, all the context. But then they will show you something that, oh, everything looks like working together. I got data from here, but is okay, what is the context? Is that is a common context for last 1 month I'm able to see all together, last 3 months I'm able to see together. I'm just common is minimum common denominator is just only 1 hour. So now I'm limited to only 1 hour in there. That's right. So that is something you always have to look into it, because just bringing into the cosmetic API integration does not mean that you have a kind of what you call is a security mess, because that is not a security mess, because that cannot bring the common context. I will pause over here, and I think team want to ask a few probing survey.
Yeah, Chandra.
You guys are ready? Should I stop sharing so you guys can ask few survey questions?
Yeah, Chandra. What is the continuous real-time monitoring, cybersecurity? What is that real-time monitoring services?
Yeah, so those are the
Continuous real-time.
questions. I think,
Yeah.
Anjali, you are asking the question. Do you want to also, do we have our survey questions? Are we able to share those or not?
No, Chandra. Maybe I don't know whether they have the option to select the questions, to post the questions in the group.
Okay,
But
so
I didn't get any. Yeah.
we have not been able to do. Pushpend, have you been able to do that or not?
I'm
Yes,
not
Chandra.
able to, but
You have those questions and where people can select the answer?
Chandra.
So you want to share that? Pushpend, have you you have a way to share those?
Yes, Chandra.
Go ahead and share it. You are sharing on your screen. How are you sharing?
No, Chandra, I have not seen any question from anywhere.
No. Actually, we had our own survey questions. Have you guys embedded into the tool or not? Okay. So I think no worries. We have to embed those. So next time we will start with those. But now let's go ahead and address some of the questions, Anjali, you have seen. So do you want to ask those questions, and let's kind of like
For an organization, like, because we have, we have a lot of partners and customers as well in this forum.
yeah. So see, we discussed a little bit about that. Any organization is starting their cybersecurity journey. First, they must start with the hygiene to make sure they got the fundamental hygiene in the place. Okay. And after that, now it comes down to is you always have to look into that what kind of budget I got and what is the best I can achieve with my budget. Most of the organization, if you got unlimited amount of budget, you can say, oh, I will buy, all these different tools. I will buy ideas, I will buy NDR, I will buy SIM, I will buy SOAR, I will get EDR, and you will have like a big SOC team. I will have like a penetration testing going on. I will have vulnerability assessment happening. I will get my own threat intelligence buyout and all that. And if you look into, there are organizations in the world who have even their security budgets of are billions of dollars. They have thousands plus 2,000 people into their security team, and they kind of like, uh, go in and they will put all those things in together, and they'll say, okay, we are working around it. Most of our organization cannot afford it. And even after spending a billions of dollars, you cannot say that they are better secure than anybody who has like more sensible solution. So from the monitoring point of view, as I say, you definitely have to have, you don't have to take a Seceon tool. You can buy any other tool if you can find one where you are able to do the continuous real-time monitoring of everything happening in your environment. And that environment can be all across your on-prem, cloud, your partner, remote access, and all that. If you are able to pull it all together and never have to look into, because one thing I do want to point out that if you just keep on saying that log is going to give me everything, a lot of time you have to understand, first of all, not all logs, when the application developer are developing something in there, or even the OS developers, their goal is to not give you too much log, because that will slow down performance of what they are trying to do. So they will give you bare minimum logs. And even when the device goes into the stress, even those log does not get like generated as well. So log does not give you complete picture. You need to have a log. You need to have a flow, and flow also, you do not want to have a flow or network telemetry. Basically, in this case, flow is nothing but network telemetry in there. When your sessions are completed, if you are getting it only when the things have already been done, that is also too late. You want to get that information sampled in the middle and have the intelligence on the collection side to make a sense out of it, what is going. If somebody is exfiltrating, I'll give you an example. Microsoft said that, oh, we had 27 terabyte of our source code was stolen and we did not know about it. They themselves are biggest cybersecurity company. 27 terabyte of your data is stolen and you don't know. And you say thousands of those attackers were living in our environment. without we knowing it. This is the statement their president made in front of Senate. If you are a cybersecurity professional, you are listening to that, and then you say, you know what, this company claimed to be like a security company, and they're the biggest security company, making fool out of everybody out there. They cannot detect that 27 terabyte of the data was stolen. 1,000 like attackers were sitting. They will say that, they were threat actors from Russia and all that, but you can always look into that from two perspectives. One thing is he's saying that, hey, these are the bad people. Other thing he's saying is, I do not have a way of detecting the people who does not belong in my organization. They were able to collect and take the data out, and still we didn't know about it. We knew about only when the data was put into the, somewhere to be sold and all that. That's right. So the key is having the solution, and in your cost point, it has to be cost point and something which either you or your partner can run it. If you are not able to run it, you get a solution, you spend a lot of money in there, but that solution just keeps on sitting there, not gives you any value. That solution is pretty much is like useless for you. Always look for ROI. If I'm investing X amount of dollar as a cybersecurity professional, you want to take a pride that I am investing X, and it is kind of making my company more secure and have a competitive advantage compared to the other people out there who either have invested a lot on that and not even able to kind of stay ahead. And other thing is also, I want to point out, since you have all the telemetry at your hand, not only you are able to keep your organization secure, you can also give the intelligence to your business team as well as your IT team, what can be done to make your organization even better efficiency wise as well. Because think about that, all of your digital footprint you have, that has been captured. A lot has been captured from the security point of view. But beyond that, you also have like what are the application services, processes, people, what they are coming, where they are coming from, and all that intelligence in there that can even help you in your planning, optimization, and getting them to be efficient and better performance coming out of your people as well. So you can use that intelligence to do a lot more. So that's basically, that is the advantage of having that digital footprint collections and able to analyze it. That is a huge, huge kind of like advantage, and which you can feed into your organization to be a more efficient organization as well, beyond the security itself. Okay. Anjali, any other question? I know we have taken
Yeah.
quite a bit
Final
of
one,
time,
Chandra.
and we will continue these as we
Sure.
said that this is a 6th session
Yeah.
we are going to be conducting. So go ahead and ask your second question,
So
Anjali.
since we mentioned that, CMDS, right, continuous. So what is that real-time, monitoring and proactive detection, the CMDS, which is mentioned that, we do as CMDS, continuous real-time monitoring.
Yeah.
Exactly what it does in real time.
Yes.
What is
Yeah.
that monitoring?
So you see, this is really critical. If you are going to be correlating the things to bring the telemetry, all the telemetry you are collecting in the real time and able to monitor those. And monitoring, what is monitoring means is, monitoring is always you have to have a context. Without a context, you can get a billion kind of like data points in there. I mentioned that some of our customers have millions of, if you look into the events and flows and all that coming per second, that looking into that million itself have some meaning, but looking into that million in context of what we have seen in that organization over since we have been deployed in that organization, And what is happening around that, because some of those telemetry, you can also enrich it. And based on that, you can say what is happening around the world as well. So you might have a certain set of the IPs or certain set of the power cells and all that, which are bad ones, able to pull it all together and say, okay, hey, I saw A, B, C, plus in the world, these things are happening, and we are seeing these power cell, which are doing credential dump and all that in there, associated with this attack group. Now, with that context, the monitoring has a lot of value in there. So when you say that, hey, I'm a monitoring a door, but in the door, what happens and what is happening, what happens every day, what is happening today, and what is happening around the globe, combining those things together, that, hey, you don't want somebody, so we are watching a door, and you know that, hey, there are, like I see at this time of the day, there are 50 people, these are the people who go through this door in there. And of a sudden I see that, hey, there are like 1,000 people coming in into door, and the 50 I recognize, and there are another 950, these people I have never seen. And then also you have a context that in, let's say in this example, in the social media, you have already seen there was a plan to go in and do some raids into this organization, get through the door and create some trouble and all that. You have put that context in there, and all of a sudden you say, you know what? I was monitoring, I had all the intelligence, I detected there is something bad going on. It's better to close the door. That's right. So real-time monitoring is real-time collection of the data, putting the enrichment with the threat intelligence in there, and having the context of what has been happening, what is expected, what is getting out of the range. So that all those things putting together is what basically is a real-time monitoring. And proactive detection, as you talked about, that, hey, you don't want to have it too late in the game. You want to detect it when they are trying to get through your door itself in there, and then stop it before it is too late in the game. So don't let them come in inside and create the riots or create the troubles. You want to make sure you stop at the gate itself. You close the gate and say, okay, hey, you have to leave from here, you know. And you know, a lot of these attackers also, once it becomes difficult to get through, what they are going to do, they will walk into to some other place in there. If they are financially motivated, if they are state actors, they will try to find the other way to get in there, and you have to be ready for those ones as well. And we will discuss a lot of those into our next session as well. Okay. Okay, I think with that, I know we have taken a lot of time today, but we will continue on that. Next week, we'll do this like summary